Hey, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for taking the time. As always, it means a lot to me that people tune in to my channel. I am continuing the series of how to spot the signs, and I thought I would continue the series with good old mate Gemini. Yes, the Geminis, double I in Gemini. So I hope that you're having a really good Christmas period. I had a really good day yesterday. It's been a real roller coaster for me this year, and now we're winding down. If you are interested in booking me for an astrological natal chart reading, I am taking those on board. So you can go ahead and do that from my website. It's www.thelelgoliathtarotdeck.com. It'll also come up under El Goliath Artist as well, and just go down there to the astrological reading, and you can purchase it there. Send in the email. It's really simple. Recent photo of yourself, name, that's the name on your birth certificate, the name that you were given, date of birth, obviously, location in the world, wherever you were, whatever hemisphere that was, whether you're at Turkey, New Zealand, wherever. And when you write it in, please just let me know the time. If you can get as close to as possible the times, that would be great. Also, when you write it in, please write it in words. So November, November, write it in words, because different parts of the world have month and date in reverse. So sometimes I don't know if, the date's under 12, obviously I wouldn't know. So that being said, thank you so much. If you've booked me for a reading, I will be getting onto it as soon as I can. I do have a lot that have come through, so thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It is my goal within the next couple of months that I will be basically doing this full time. Suddenly out of nowhere, it's become a full-time job. So I have many readings, many people reaching out to me. They've found my videos. They hear my thought processes. They reconcile what I'm saying. They can comprehend what I'm saying. And it means so much to me. And it is a great way to support me. I am an artist. I am anti-woke. And I'm also very much into the heavy-duty stuff of life. I also thought it would be interesting to do Gemini today and talk about the Geminis, because if you are a Gemini sun, or if you have a lot of placements in Gemini, it is a sad, sad time right now in the world for the Geminis. And I will explain that to you now, just starting off with this series that I'm continuing. I think we've done Cancer, we've done Sagittarius, whatever the other one was, we did Taurus, and now we're doing the Gemini. I'll probably do the Pisces next. But it's a really sad time in the world, because if you are a Gemini and you are operating on a higher level of thinking, on a higher level of knowledge, you will notice that all of the new intellectuals are now operating on such a low level. All of this social media bullshit has really lowered the average intellectual bandwidth and depth of a brain. And I find that really sad. And I know that you do too, because we're just seeing at this point, when it comes to film and television and media, just people kind of phoning it in, and Geminis can know that. Geminis, they want knowledge. This is Alexandria, the library with all of the books. And now coming into the modern world, into this age of Aquarius, into the age of technology and the age of the Antichrist, we are seeing a census on knowledge. We're seeing, put it this way, it's like Gemini would be the brain that could paint a really, really stunning Renaissance painting, and have other people see all of the value that it would take to create something so unbelievably beautiful and stunning and just so much depth and vibrance, which is what Gemini really is here for anyway. And the concept, and now to live in a world where that's just not only can people not do it like they used to do it, it's like they just do some squiggles and some blobs of colors and splash it around and expect to get the same level of notoriety. And people wouldn't know the difference, because we know the new generation doesn't see what, and doesn't want to see what came before it. And that hubris really upsets Gemini. And I have some Gemini friends that know this and they understand this. And I really feel for them. And I feel for it. I feel for it in myself too as an artist, because art in the next 10 years, we're going to see pretty much the end of art. Like modern art will be like when I say art, I mean real art. It's all going now. We're going to see that, and that's where it's already happening, because like the thing about with humans, if you're a Gemini listening, and you probably already figured this out, it's a numbers game. So where the numbers shift in the world, that's where the majority is. That's where the world shifts its consciousness. So if no one places value in the excellence that you bring, then you have nothing to bring to the world. And that's really sad, particularly with the Geminis, with a duality sign like the Gemini, because they have so much intelligence and idealism and expressionism in them. And to be in a world now where the bare minimum is the norm and people celebrate that with very little effort being put into something, it really is sad. But that being said, it's just where it's going. It's what's happened with social media. And that's also why, and I was talking about this the other day with a Gemini, actually, we're talking about how the show Survivor is such a powerful show, because it's a micro of the macro. So it's like, if you don't know this in life or in a workplace, your ability to be liked and to fit in will usually almost always trump your ability at all that you have in the tribe. Because humans are a tribal species, we have to be with other people. Gemini knows that. That's how they can move through many different, interchangeable personality traits that they have to fit into different groups. But Survivor is like a workplace. Every week someone is in the bottom. Every week someone kind of goes home. Someone's the villain. You need to have a victim. You need to have a hero. You need to have a leader. That leader gets overthrown by other people that want to be the leader. And that group breaks up into subgroups. It's just how humans work. And if anyone can understand that, anyone naturally can understand that. No one can more than a Gemini. All right. So that being said, I understand. Now, the reason that I'm doing this series is because I wanted you guys to understand that what we physiologically look like is also a correlation of the planetary alignments and the planets. We are part of this Earth. The frequencies of this cosmos, of this solar system and all the planets, okay? The way that the air comes into the lungs, it's like the bronchial, it's like the roots of a tree, the nervous system that we have, it's all connected to the planet, to the rocks, the ground, the moon, the water, the air, everything. We are an extension of this planet. And I also mentioned in my previous video talking about Elon Musk is that we wouldn't survive, the soul wouldn't survive and the human body wouldn't survive unless it mutated in some way, or unless it was interfered with on a massive level to change to a point where it could sustain life in space or in the vacuum of space or being colonized. It's not going to happen. Also, I was talking with a Gemini the other day how humans in their hubris and narcissism, monumental narcissism, think that they create life by, say, for example, splitting cells or, making IVF babies and things like that. And basically humans playing God will it ever work out. Okay, humans can create things. I think that I always liked a saying, I'm not sure if it was said by Jung, but he said, there's nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun. Everything has been done before. Everything is like, all ideas are just built on top of other ideas that came before them. All right. So the idea that a human thinks that they can create something by taking a cell and splitting it and mutating it and morphing it and merging, DNA structures with other things, that's not creation. I want to make that's not the conversation that I'm having here. That's not creation. Okay. That's just hybridizing something. All right. You didn't create it. Okay, the universe, this planet has been here so much more longer than a human could even comprehend. All right, longer than we think. So humans aren't creating when they're just meddling and morphing and distorting nature. And the more that they do that, the more they weaken the gene pool, because babies shouldn't be born, because the body can't have the baby, because the body's way of not having the baby is the body's way of saying, I can't bring a healthy baby to term, so it doesn't have a baby. And humans come in and go, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. We're going to make it have a baby. And then we have all these medical problems with kids. And every fucking kid's autistic. Every kid's got all these medical problems. Not just because of the food and the water, everything's been completely poisoned, but because we are weakening the gene pool, because we're damaging and tarnishing, and humans are placing themselves in this position of godhood. It's not going to go down well. All right. And if anyone wants to do this, the reason I'm talking about this in correlation to the Gemini is the Gemini. Dark Geminis do this. Dark Geminis do have a God complex because they have a mind of a mad scientist. If I do this and I do this and I mix this together, what will happen? It was also I'm not sure if the writer of Jurassic Park was a Gemini. I'm not sure, I have to check it, but I think the premises of the same thing was what will happen when humans play around with Mother Nature and how Mother Nature in reality snaps back violently. I think it's quite fitting because some days I wake up and the anarchist in me is like, is it time yet? I go out to the sky at night and look up at the stars. I'm like, I don't know much more of this I can take. Beam me up. But yeah. So yeah, the first thing you're going to get with a Gemini is the mind. All right. So this is a quick-witted mind. This is Teal Swan. This is Jordan Peterson. Okay. You're not going to get a brain more complex than this. So first things first, communication, no shit, mercurial energy. All right. This is a sign to be around them when you meet these people visually. I can tell you what to look for visually with this sign. Obviously, Geminis tend to come in smaller sizes in terms of their stature, in terms of their limb size and proportions. They don't have big, long legs like Sagittarians. A lot of them are very little. They're not like big built Tauruses. They're not big built. Generally, they're not big built, airy people like Arians. Okay. Aries usually has blue eyes. Geminis tend to have either very light colored eyes or very dark eyes, like dark brown eyes. Okay. Physiologically, I can share with you what to look for, but the energetic footprint or the energetic feeling of this person when you're around them is what I want you to get, because that's what you're going to get out of the video, is how to spot a sign. So their eyes are always the first giveaway if it's not their size. Think of Kylie Minogue. She's a little Gemini. Think of a little pocket rocket. There's lots of energy inside of them. Gemini people are very restless, just like Sagittarians. There is a restless energy to them. They may have said they wanted marriage. They may have said they wanted monogamy. Secretly, they don't. They may have said that they wanted to study a certain thing at school, and then they change their mind 20,000 times like Libra. They've gone, this is the sign that you'll get in the back of a cab one day and talk to them like a Sagittarian, and they will know things about life that no one else could know. They would have lived so many different lives. Okay. And you would even think sometimes, as a lot of people do with me actually a lot. And as I'm kind of getting a bit older, I turned 39 this year. I share a lot of my stories with people about my life and all the different jobs I've had, all the different experiences I've had, the different lovers that I've had, learning all about, all of the occult things that I'm interested in. They run. They're like, this is just too crowded. Like, your past is too crowded. And I'm like, no, that's just an interchangeable personality that has all these experiences, and I'm able to diarize them just like a Gemini. Sagittarius and Gemini are distinctively like twins. They are opposites on the chart, fire and air, I should say. Fire and water doesn't really work. Fire and air is like a fucking tornado meets a forest fire. Okay, not a good match, but I'll get onto that anyway. Or maybe it is if you want that. But yeah, you'll meet them and they'll have all these stories and knowledge. And this is a sign that talks very quick, obviously. All right, so when you spot them and they're really talking really quick and they're racing and they're jumping from thing to thing, from subject to subject, it's a Gemini. All right, sometimes you can't differentiate the jump in the conversation of how they were talking about, say, like a fish in one conversation, and then in the next 10 seconds, the fish conversation has merged onto planetary alignments or what they're having for lunch. It's a fast-paced, frenetic, neurotic energy. If you are looking for stability, the only way at this point in my life when I see a Gemini is I am fond of them and I keep them around, some of them around, if they're not too dark-sided and calculative and manipulative, as unfortunately so many of them are, very plotting, is I have to look at where their rising is. I have to look at where their moon is. The rising is the lens that they see the world through. That'll be their base. The sun sign Gemini part is the masculine energy. It's the ego. It's their external projection. And the moon is who they really are. All right, so we need to understand those three big things to understand this projection in this essence of a person that could have been someone yesterday and then the next day they're someone else. This sign, in a lot of ways, if they're like a lot of air sign is in a Gemini's chart, then they're just going to be basically like borderline personality disorder. And it's a real tragedy, actually, for a lot of these Geminis. And it's a real tragedy for a lot of the borderline personalities because they go so synonymously together, is that they will project their fear of abandonment on you in a way that is so deeply insecure to the point where they will almost certainly create a scenario where they drive you away from them. And then they'll wonder why you vanished. But deep down they know. So it's a very complicated sign because when you meet these people with that level of interchangeable personalities, they pattern themselves off things around them, just like Pisces does. So if you put a Gemini in a really unstable household, the Gemini becomes even more unstable. If you put a Gemini in a very secure childhood with a very strong leadership parental figure, particularly in the masculine or more masculine, then you're going to have more of a stable sign. This is very, very subject to their chart, just like Pisces. And to a sense, kind of like Cancer. You have to look at their chart, all right? Handing me a chart is super dangerous because you're basically handing me the blueprint of your whole life. Plus, I can read the energy of you as well. So it's a double whammy for me. That's why I wouldn't be giving out my own details to someone like me unless I really, really, really wanted to know something about myself that I didn't already know. And that's the thing, when you go to a fortune teller, you don't really necessarily want the fortune teller or the psychic reader or the medium, whoever, to tell you something that you already know. What you really, really want is for them to tell you something that you don't know. And that's why I like art. It's why I like the sciences in a way. It's why I like reading, and it's why I like story, because I want someone to tell me something that I don't know. I want someone to bring something to me fully assembled that I don't already know. And that's what Gemini wants too. There's that dichotomy there. It's quite fascinating. So you have to bring me something that I don't already know about the world or life that will keep me around or keep me interested. That's why Geminis are the most divorced sign other than Pisces in the zodiac, because you have to be able to keep them around. This sign is all about expansion in all ways, in all things. They cannot be contained. Don't put them in a room. They don't want to be in a room, they want to be in a mansion. Then they don't want to be in a mansion, they want to be in a log cabin. If they can't be in a log cabin, they'll want to be in a yacht. If they can't be in a yacht, they'll want to be in an aeroplane. It's always moving. And so you have, and it moves quick. This is a sign that moves very, very quickly. All right. So with the BPD, I'm not saying all of them are, but a lot of them have those traits where they have struggling for identity and latch onto things that make them like the sign of the week that they latch onto, the movie of the week. They'll watch a movie and then they want to be the person in the movie. All right. It's quite exhausting to be around a lot of Geminis. They exhaust themselves, but it's just how they are. And they are constantly scanning pages, energies, the room for things. A lot of them are nail biters, very fidgety, very nervous, very on edge, super intelligence, all right? Always jumpy. Think of the Gemini energy when you meet a Gemini person like a cat. A cat is very agile. A cat is a very flexible creature that can move itself into lots of different tight spaces to hunt and stalk. This is a cat energy. It's a feline energy when you meet a Gemini person. Their eyes are all over the place. Okay, they're looking around in their environment. Think of it, it's like when you're hunting something, as Geminis generally are on the hunt, they have to blend into their environment to hide. So say, for example, if you're out in the forest and you're hunting a deer, it's best that you look and appear like a tree, or you look like you're in the grass. That's how this sign works. It's a very undercover energy when it comes to the Gemini. They're not going to be front and center. All right. They can be very good actors because acting is imitating emotions. They're very, very good like that. If the Gemini is on the Machiavellian scale, you must get away from them quickly. Geminis will always have a backup plan. And if that backup plan doesn't work, they'll have another backup plan in place while that one's still running. All right, so if one falls through, the other one's already coming into play. It's just how they are. It's just how they feel safe. They're very secretive like that. Okay? And they are speedy. No one can do anything multiple, like at a multiple frequencies at one time more accurately than this sign. This sign can write a novel while raising a kid, while working 3 jobs. Like they just are very, very good at balancing things. Okay. And the Gemini's way of doing this is that the Gemini can detach emotionality from logical thinking, which is one of the strongest, most powerful things that they have about them. They can they can twist and not twist, well, they can change from one to the other blendlessly, like seamlessly. Very, very versatile energy when you meet a Gemini. Usually smaller hands, when the Gemini They don't have big hands like a Taurus or big hands like a Sagittarian. Or sometimes a lot of the Scorpions are quite long-limbed. Geminis are usually quite well positioned in their bone structure. It's all kind of like in proportion. So a lot of them translate very well in film and television, because even though in real life they may only weigh like 40 kg and be very light, and the natural disposition of a Gemini is not heavy, it's light, okay? They would look proportionate in on the way that the screen shows them, if that makes sense. So they appear to always be different. When you meet a Gemini in real life, they look completely different to what they look like on television. It's just the nature of their facial structure. Okay. So when it comes to this energy as well, and it depends, of course, always where the chart is, because this is very subject, like Pisces, to the chart. Pisces imitates the heart of their surroundings energetically, and Gemini imitates the mind of its surroundings energetically. So if you're stupid, the Gemini is going to completely manipulate you and railroad you, and you won't even know it. This sign can move through so many different social groups at one time without anyone batting an eyelid. The only loyalty that this sign has is to themselves. And they can be loyal to a sense until that time, space, and place ends. And that's something that I've learned about Geminis, which a lot of astrologers don't like to say because they're too scared of what other people think. This sign is skimming through people always, will play along with you and create a world with you. But you have to understand that at any moment, when they feel that time and space and place, the triangle where time, space, and matter ends, the relationship has ended. And it's very, very difficult, very, very, very difficult. Please listen, so difficult to get this sign back once they've left you and moved on. Same with the Sagittarian. Once the spell is broken and the Gemini feels that they've reached the bottom of the lake of your soul, they are already on to the next thing. Now, the Gemini can hang around for a while. Their heart won't be in it, but the relationship is over. All right, so depending on where their ascendant is, it's just how it is. And a problem that people have is that Gemini knows that not all things last forever. And they know that not all relationships last forever. So they a lot of them have what I call the hallway syndrome, where they're kind of in the hallway, they're in the middle. They're not fully through the door, they're half in. All right, so depending obviously where their ascending is, but that's generally how it is. They're very, very good with their hands, sewing, typing, any type of quick movement, very quick reflexes, much like the cat. The cat is an independent being. All right, so when you meet a Gemini, how to spot them, they are always twitching and moving and looking around and observing their environment. All right, they are observers. They record things. A lot of them work in bookshops, work in libraries. They work in places of where information and data is stored. They work in computer programming, that type of thing. All right, so they're all advertising agencies, that type of thing. Think of like the character from Marvel, Quicksilver. That is a Gemini. You know, he can move so quick. And you have to keep up with this sign. If you can't keep up with them, they're out the door. This sign talks very, very fast. If you meet them, they're a fast talker. If you're speaking too slow and you're too really slow, and I felt like I went to the shop and then I came, Gemini's out the door, bye. You have to be quick. Keep up with them. When they change conversations, you have to be able to keep up with that change effortlessly. They're going in one direction, the wind change, they're going in a different direction. You have to be able to accommodate that expansion of that change. All right. And I mean fucking efficiently, because they are not going to be interested in hanging around you if your nervous system is operating at you're stoned. That's why Geminis, a lot of them do like to get stoned. A lot of Capricorns do the same thing, but I think ultimately it's not a good thing for them. Any level of drug or medication, a lot of them are medicated to slow them down, to slow their brain down so they can sleep. A lot of them shouldn't be on medication. They have to learn within to create the discipline to control their mind, to not have to sedate themselves, because their brain is popping and cracking and sparking all the time with ideas. It's vibrating at a very, very high level. And that's a really powerful and potent thing when you put a Gemini with another air sign, like an Aquarius, or a fire sign, like a Sagittarian. Because we could sit down together and create and write a whole TV show series together in one night. Like, if the passion is there, the fire is there, that's where the Gemini is. If you have zero enthusiasm for life, Gemini not interested. So this is the sign that's impatient. They have serious impatience issues. They'll be tapping their fingers, looking around the room, rolling their eyes, finishing your conversation before you finish it. A lot of them are not good listeners. They can understand what you're saying, but they see it as a competition because they're very competitive. So if you are a Gemini, and God bless you, and I do have a lot of love for you, not everything is a competition. Okay, so when you stand in your power, that's you. You don't need to be like someone else. You just have to be like you. All right, so you're not in a competition with me. I'm not in a competition with you. You have to find your own style and your own way. You can't piggyback off other people's things. You have to find your own way. They get high off the motivation of others, but very impatient and impulsive. And so a lot of them will say something before they really understand the full consequences of what they've said. And as a result, it comes off as cold and it comes off as very mean. And even if the Gemini doesn't necessarily mean it, the damage is just done. Okay. So yeah, eye color is usually like a beautiful crystal clear, hazily bluey green, or it's very kind of like coarse and thick and dark. All right, that's how you always recognize them in the room. Their eyes. The eyes are always swooping in. They would look and blink about double the average that someone normally would in a room. Physiologically, when a Gemini smiles, their whole face smiles. They have when they light up. It's really quite beautiful. A lot of them are very pretty, very doll-like in the face. A lot of the Geminis are like the Virgos. And some of them have kind of rather high foreheads, I've noticed. For the men usually with the Geminis do recede quite early in their life. But the Gemini always looks 10 years younger than what they are. So if you meet someone and they are what I'm describing, they may have a thinner type neck structure, usually a thinner neck with a larger shaped head. Not as big as a Capricorn skull shape, but usually it's quite thin in proportion to the size of the jaw structure in the head. They carry that weight around, kind of like a bubble head a little bit, some of them. Obviously, it's all the brain, but everything is psychological for this sign. Nothing turns them on unless it's psychological. The physiological act of it they're not turned on by physical things like a Taurus is. They are very visual like a Taurus, but they're not turned on by the visual structure of something. this is a sign that lives in the realm of the mind, that's interchangeable. It has its wits about it at all times, like a pinball machine just bouncing around. Very strategical. Everything they do is strategical. They will record conversations with people without the other person knowing. They do this as a self-protection mechanism later, which is also back to that thing where they kind of fulfill their own prophecy. Like, why would anyone ever want to trust someone that records you? You know, what's your motive? So their motives are usually off from the start. Unfortunately, and a lot of them are like that. They don't mean to be that way. It's just how they are. It's a self-protection thing. This sign would rather an email than a chat because they have the proof of what you said. So there's a lot of that kind of energy going on. But yeah, they look younger than what they are. So if they're 50, they look like they're 40. If they're 60, they look like they're 50. If they're 39, they look like they're coming into their 30s and they're turning 29. Do you get it? Like, so that's how they are. They're always got a quick reply or remark back that's very quick and quick-handed. Sudden movements. That's how this works. One door open, next door's already, like if they had a bad day at work, which I really respect, the Gemini isn't going to sit around and go, oh, my job's shit, my life is shit, oh, that's so shit. No. What the Gemini is already doing is already opening up other opportunities with other companies while they're at work, having their bad day. Because they know that this is the thing that I love about the Gemini, that they know in their heart that if they don't do something, nothing's going to happen. The thing that paralyzes the Gemini in the mind is that when they have something placed on them from someone else that they didn't agree to. They don't like that. Same with the Sagittarians. It's all about freedom. So they may know that they have to do a video. Say, for example, I'm doing it right now. I said that I would do one video every week in this series. So I made that commitment that I will honor that. It's one video from me a week talking about how to spot a star sign, right? I don't feel like it some days. I'm not in the right zone. The temperature isn't right. There's stuff going on at work. There's things happening in my life, da-da-da-da-da. But so I don't do it on the day that I don't feel it. If you're catching my drift, Gemini, if you're getting it, what will happen is one of those 7 days I will trust within the 7 days where the light will be right, the timing will be right, the energies are right, maybe the planetary correlations will be right. Then I come forth and do the video when it comes to me. I don't force it, but I know that it will come in the week because I did make that commitment to myself. Do you get the difference? That's why a lot of them are quite creative in that way as well, because it has to come from creation within them. It can't be forced. It can't be like, do this at this time or else. They're going to be like, bye. Do you get it? Okay, that's how you inspire the Gemini. You don't force them or tell them what to do. All right? So I hope that made sense. So obviously lots of problem solving. This is a problem solving sign. This is like a Rubik's Cube. Their energy doesn't want to be understood. This is a sign a lot of the time when I spot a Gemini, they'll tell me that they're not a Gemini because I already know that I'm onto them. So they'll try and shift and bait and switch and move in a different direction the whole time that they are. They'll speak 6 different languages. They would have traveled the world. They've gone over and had 3-ways in Germany. They're into BDSM, and then they'll be into very sensual things. That is all typical Gemini stuff. It's the spice of life, like Sagittarius. They listen to lots and lots of different music. They have a demand to be excited. They'll put a song on, repeat, a zillion times over, until they can't hear it anymore, and then they're over it. All right, so that is how they are. They can come up with answers to things that you wouldn't even, like, it's just a gift of the gods. That's why I really value the Gemini's opinions, because they can do the differentiational thing where they can separate emotionality from logic. Aquarians can do that as well, some of the Aquarians. but Gemini will do it. They'll always have a look at something that I'll bring to them from an angle that I hadn't maybe considered yet. That's why they make very good counsel, if and only if the Gemini has your best interests at heart. Otherwise, the Gemini is the master of putting self-doubt in your head. All right? So that's how it is. A lot of them will sabotage. We all know that this is the most hated sign. Okay, we know that. They know that too. And it's because they can't be trusted. A lot of them will talk about a person at work with you and build rapport with you about that person as they're talking about how they're annoying or their performance was wasn't good, or they're a bad person or whatever. And then they'll go to the person they were just talking about poorly and talk to them about you, the person they were just talking to. So it's that duality, once that is uncovered in a workplace, that's why a lot of Geminis move on from lots of different jobs, because they can't build the rapport because they're a different person every day at work with the same people. So people innately have a distrust of them and are very skeptical of them and their true nature and their motives, because they have a compulsion to behave in a way that is completely the opposite of what they showed you, which is why a lot of them make very good politicians. Like Trump is a Gemini. They understand that it is a popularity contest. Once they figure out how to win, the Geminis will pull out any skeleton they can in your closet to undermine you dangerously. All right, that's how they are. All right, so it's a swinging pendulum. I once told you guys, like, inconsistent, the only thing that Geminis are consistent in is being inconsistent. The only way a Gemini energy or a Gemini person is consistent is if they have more earth or water or something very grounding in their chart, and they're midheaven sitting somewhere around an earth sign like a Virgo or a Taurus. That's the only way it would be more structured and stable and coherent, because their inconsistency is unfortunately the thing that undoes them. But if a Gemini is consistent and does stay on task and does show up every day for work and to do what they said they were going to do, they can achieve so much, like unbelievable amounts of work and high quality work too, I might add. Very, very good. All right. So that's how they are. This sign has a multi-dexterous energy. So it's like it's just manually inbuilt into them. So they could walk into Starbucks, pick up the coffee cup and start making coffee. They could walk into a television presenting role that talks to kids and they put on their voice for that and go, "Hey kids, I've got a great idea. If you guys subscribe to our channel, they can put on any character." I can do this too, because I was a trained actor in my 20s. And I understood, like I said at the start of this chat, this very honest chat about Geminis and how to spot them, is that your projection will always override your ability. That is how humans are built. So what I'm saying is, in a workplace, it's not necessarily your skill set that keeps you there, that keeps you employed, that keeps your manager happy with you. It is your relationships with people that keep you there. All right? That's why we all know managers that are a nightmare. They come to work late, they leave work early every day, they don't have very good communication skills, they're not leaders, they're not listeners, they're not innovative. And a lot of us go, how did you get to be in that position? How did you get to have that job? And then you look at their relationship with their manager and you're like, gotcha. There it is. It's relatability, guys, that builds connections and how we make people feel. Gemini knows that. Gemini may be able to sustain the projection of something falsely for a period of time. even long enough to quickly backtrack and learn what that thing and then bring it up as if it was there the whole time when it really wasn't. Say, for example, a good analogy of a Gemini would be like in the Dune series. If you guys are familiar with the sci-fi series, the Dune series, there were mentats. Mentats were like Piter Decrees, I think his name was. I'm not sure if I butchered that last name. I'm sorry. But he was a robot that was built in the image of a human. Like he's synthetic. He doesn't have a soul. Like he's an imitation of a human that collects data and all of the probabilities of all of the different angles of things and all the different outcomes of things based on the data that they have, that gives the closest answer, the rightest answer to something. And they can morph and shapeshift. Maybe it's not the Mentat. Maybe that was the Virgo. Maybe it's more, I'm not sure if it's the Virgo, but it's the one that can shapeshift. So they can morph themselves to match the environment, but they can't do it for long periods of time. So for example, I'm not sure if maybe it was a Dola. I'm not sure, but if you know the character, it's on the end. If you know the character, please let me know. But it's basically like they are bred to infiltrate enemy camps by projecting to look like and be like one of the ones that they're infiltrating. So, but they can't hold it for long periods of time. So it's like tensing. So say, for example, you could change your face to look like another person's face. It's really scary, personal stuff. Imagine your mum coming home and you think it's your mum, but it's actually someone else who just looks like your mum. But it's like holding a muscle tense. They can't hold it for long periods of time. And then after like an hour, a couple of days, they've got to let go. They revert back to their default setting. That's when they're caught. That's Gemini. And I've seen them do this. So a Gemini will get around people that will always help them advance themselves. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because the only way Gemini knows that the only way you can get better is to be around people and to position yourself around people that are better than you. So that's Gemini. And then it's like Saltburn in a way. I mean, I was watching that film Saltburn. They'll play a character to infiltrate something only to end up killing everyone in the house and taking the mansion. I know it's a very extreme thing, but that Geminis would secretly go, yes, I love that. Like dancing around the house naked to Sophie Alex Bex's song, Murder on the Dance Floor, after they've won the game. This is a strategic sign that likes to play chess and mind game warfare. No one will out Gemini a Gemini, except someone like myself, because I'm onto them. And once a Gemini knows that you're onto them, they'll probably abandon you, or they'll pull away, or they'll lose interest. Once the mask has slipped, the Gemini, the face dancer. Sorry, that's what I was thinking before. The face dancer. It wasn't the Mentat. That's the Virgo energy. The Mentat is the Virgo, the one that creates the problem solving. The face dancer is the one that can change their face. So if you put them around skinny people, the Gemini will suddenly lose tons of weight. If you put the Gemini around someone that is super good at maths, the Gemini will suddenly get very, very, very good at maths, almost on par to the level that they're trying to emulate. They're always emulating something else outside of themselves. The problem is with the Gemini is the same thing that is synonymous with the borderline personality, is that they become something that they really aren't comfortable with to a point where they resent themselves for it. And they are always mass idolizing someone externally in the external world, and then having mass amounts of devaluation on that person when that person doesn't lead them to where they thought they wanted to go, as high as they thought they could. And it's all about the high. So if you see a Gemini or a person who likes to get lots of stimulants like sugars lollipops. If you see them, Geminis are always shoveling coffee. A lot of them, I once had a Gemini friend that used to actually get spoonfuls of coffee and actually stuff the coffee in his mouth so that he could get that high, he could get that buzz, and then he could go to the gym and pump weights high on coffee. That is how you spot them. All right. So it's that this spirit in them that you'll see through their eyes is their version of romance is take me somewhere I've never been before and make it a mystery. Life is a mystery that needs to be explored. So that's how you keep them around. That's what they ultimately want. They will emulate manners. They will be respectful, very well dressed, very well presented. And if they went to a bogan's house or like a redneck's house, like a really low socioeconomical person's house, they would instantly shift their frequency and become just like those people to build that relatability. That's why this sign always wins the show Survivor. They are very good at puzzles, problem solving, strategical thinking, analysis of things. That's how they win. And they're obviously, everyone says, like, it goes without saying, they can flip from one side to the other very quickly. The only problem is that they become undone when they'll go to a football team match that's playing, they'll go for the team they came in for with the scarf around their neck. And then halfway through the game, if that team's losing, the Gemini might take the scarf off and go for the other team. So a lot of them are very bisexual. It's a shame. A lot of narcissistic Gemini men that are on the Machiavellian scale use a lot of gay men for sex because they like to see that disassociation thing that we talked about before. So they'll play with the other person and lead them on as if they're having a real relationship with that gay man, even though they might even be married to a woman. They'll lead a gay man on just to get sex off them so that man will experiment with them to do things that their wife wouldn't do. And then the Gemini will rationalize it in a way where it's like, oh, well, it's not really cheating because it's not another woman. Or they'll be like, oh, well, there's no risk of pregnancy, so I can get away with this. So that level of manipulation and very deceitful thinking is a very, it's a very natural thing that can come into the Gemini's sphere if they are on the Machiavellian scale of psychopathy. Okay, but I must say it's always subject to the placements. You have to look at the moon and you've got to look at the rising. If it's a triple Gemini, you're in danger. You could even be in life-threatening danger. All right? I know this sounds extreme, but I'm just being honest. It all depends. Like, there's so many different combinations. That's why I can't give you all the different combinations, but I can share with you how to spot them in a workplace, how to spot them at the bar. They are sophisticated. They like flirtation. If she's flirting with you and she's looking at you and she's teasing you and she's flipping her hair back and she's laughing and projecting to the version that she thinks that you want, then it is a Gemini. They are very beautiful women. Gemini women are very beautiful. They're very petite. A lot of them are very little. All right? They're very, like, they'll tell you to love me tenderly, and the whole time they'll want you to basically hate fuck them. Then they'll gaslight you later, that type of thing. It's all over the shop. It's all about play. It's a dance. It's changeability. It's surrender and effort. Surrender and effort. Surrender and effort. It's the cat and the mouse. It's the chase that Gemini wants. Don't bore them. They can play characters for money. They'll come into work and play the character, and then they'll leave work and not even think about it, as if it was just a dirty piece of shit on the side of the road. They'll do the same with people too. All right, so they've got that duality to them, is that they always have an ace up their sleeve. That's how they stay safe. They always will have a get-rich-quick scheme that will probably work. They'll always have something like that going on in the background. All right, so that is how you see them. If you misread them, it really annoys them as well. They don't like that. It's an inner child. It's a cheerful friendliness to them. If they're really cheerful and bubbly and they can't stop talking and they can't just chatty, that's the Gemini. If they're asking questions like, what would happen if a shark won in a fight with a bear? Even things that make no sense, that's a Gemini. That inquisitive nature is something that is in part of their nature. Geminis are not usually possessive and they're not usually overly jealous. Okay, a lot of them do go into polyamory relationships or open relationships because they have to have that spice of life. Okay, they don't like over-exaggerated love, but a lot of them do need to be vividly impressed. They need to keep things spicy. Dirty weekends away, 3 ways on a holiday would be more likely than having, the dog shit in their house kind of thing, if you get what I mean. So there is a strange beauty to the mercurial nature of a Gemini. It's very much like a hunger of the mind, and there is sometimes an idealism. And it's a real shame when a lot of them are taken over by idealism and they can't get into reality, much like the Pisces. But that's just how it is. Very good with words as well, wording of things, writing of things. They're not fickle. They have accurate degrees of accuracy. But yes, at times the female Geminis in particular can seem sometimes a little bit like, in a workplace, they'll be, like a salesman charm in a way. So, well, I think I will leave it here. This is the energy of them. This is how you spot them. And they're very hyper. A lot of them have joint problems, hypermobility problems. So a lot of them will have like damaged knees, over extended joints in the arms, that type of thing. So it's like in their later years, a lot of them will have joint problems because they're like naturally acrobatic. They can run up walls and do flips and tricks, and very good with like knives, sword fights, very like kung fu, that like ninja type stuff. That's all Gemini. Skiing is very big with a lot of them, I've noticed as well. Well, I will leave it here. Lots and lots of love. I hope that this has helped. Please leave some comments below. I know I've jam-packed so much in, but it's been a lot of fun. And this is how you spot them. This is how you understand them. This is how you see them. There's a childlike quality. Let them be in that inner child. And if you can get into that inner child and be in that kind of happy, bubbly, energy, then that's where you'll probably find them. That's where they'll, create a fantasy with them and go on that fantasy for that treasure chest. Just make sure that when that treasure chest is found, that you've got other ones there waiting. Otherwise, they'll lose interest. You have to keep them on their toes. There's a million reasons for why they do anything, all right? And they do like to exaggerate sometimes. A lot of them, like Sagittarians, sometimes they can over-exaggerate. Technically, it is lying, but to them, it's just how they are. Lots and lots of love. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Bye.